Olga had a question about how can I tell if a dog's reacting to food allergies? Mine started licking front paws a lot just after a couple weeks. What do you do? Tests. So this is where leaky gut, big time. We need to see what's going on in that gut health. Is there a food sensitivity? NutriScan by Dr. Jean Dodds. So HemoPet is going to help identify if there's a food sensitivity. There are environmental blood tests that look for environmental allergens. I don't run the food allergen profile from a blood sample because it's checking, like Dr. Jean Dodds. She specifically had a slide that showed the pros and the cons for looking at blood samples versus the saliva test and the different immunoglobulins that it's testing for, because they will be very different for a sensitivity versus an allergen. And those food allergy blood tests are not sensitive at all. So that's a waste of money. Don't do them. Okay. There's my warning to you. Do not do them. Just do the environmental allergy test, because those are true allergens, and you can do immunotherapy. There's a lot of other ways to treat that. But we do have to go back to leaky gut, what's going on in the microbiome, and doing those additional tests that we've been talking about for the past 4 days. Let's see. We talked a lot about inflammatory bowel disease. Most lectures have covered that. And so I would say that we do have some resources coming up that are going to help guide pet parents, but make sure you have access to these webinars to refer back to, because I know I rewatched every single one with you. I did the interviews and I was there and I rewatched them and I learned even more. So you can gain additional value. You absorb it differently when you hear it that second, third, fourth, even fifth time. And a lot of the things I'm saying are on repeat, right? But it may take 4 or 5 times before you're like, oh, that's what she meant, or that's what that speaker meant. And for it to really kick in and go, that's how I fix my pet. That's just like anything. So definitely make sure you go back and rewatch those webinars. Let's see. I have a question from Ingrid. Is it true you should not feed vegetables like broccoli, cabbage every day? Okay, this is, once again, each pet is an individual. I like variety. I like rotation. Would you eat broccoli every day? Probably not. And broccoli, so high in sulfur compounds, cabbage is high in sulfur. It's a cruciferous vegetable. So it is really good for detoxing, supporting liver health, helping with anti-cancer properties. The thing is that especially for vegetables that are high in like calcium oxalates, if your pet has like their urine pH, so if it's too low, they can form crystals, so calcium oxalate crystals, which can solidify into calcium oxalate bladder stones if that pH of the urine is off. So this is why variety is key. It's just like if you feed kibble every single day, we're not getting variety. It's technically balanced, right? And as you know, if you've gone through all these lectures, what that means and what that really doesn't mean. And that's why we advocate every single practitioner, every single speaker here is using real food, fresh food, or raw diets with their patients. And there's a reason why. It's because it's not processed. It's better for us, just like it is for people. And so going back to those principles of variety, balance over the long run, making sure if you are getting into home cooked diets or pre-made raw diets that you're working with someone if you feel lost, confused. So that way you're not making a mistake that could potentially over the long term cause a health issue for your pet. But it takes a while before we can actually cause a lot of harm. So if you're just kind of like getting started and getting your hands into it, don't be afraid. Get going, keep researching. Like Kimberly Gauthier with Keep the Tail Wagging, in her interview, she talked about her journey starting with raw food and how she essentially went with those pre-made raw brands because she was super overwhelmed, which you may be right now. And it helped alleviate a lot of that stress where she could go, I can learn, and I know I'm feeding my pets from a good brand. She used Darwin's. I use Darwin's. My 2 cats are being fed it right now. It's a great company. And there's a lot of others. Go to the Facebook page. People have been sharing really good companies if you're looking for pre-made options. So definitely check that out. But, go the easier route. Take some stress off. Okay, maybe it's more expensive, but it allow you time to continue to learn, jump into a lot of these amazing Facebook groups, or partner with a holistic veterinarian, integrative veterinarian, to learn how to do some of these raw food diets or a fresh food diet and really dial that in for